Okay, well, I'm going to start off anyway by just introducing myself. My name's Carl Shires, and I run the business support service. And I thought I'll do a quick introduction just about who the business support service are, because I know there's many people might not even be aware of who we are or what it is we do. So let me just get the right screen. Yeah, business support service. We are a free multi-channel information and guidance service, and we operate across England. We're fully funded by the Department of Business and Trade. So we are the government's virtual business support provision. We help anybody who's either thinking about setting up in business, is already in business, might be looking to grow on any aspect of kind of their business. This service has been available for about 10 years. So there's probably not a business idea we haven't heard of in that kind of time. We don't have any problems kind of with who we kind of work with on the service, as long as you're either based in or going to be based in England. So it doesn't matter what sector you're in. It doesn't matter what your idea is. It doesn't matter where in England you are. It doesn't matter whether you're going to be a limited company, sole trader, or a charity. Again, we can kind of help you with those kind of issues. Just here's a short list of the things we can help you with, but the list is pretty much endless when it kind of comes to business support. One of the most common things we get asked about is people wanting to set up in business. And so one of the most important things we talk about is business planning and how important it is to set up your business plan before you even think about actually starting to trade. But also we help businesses understand their responsibilities, their tax obligations. We don't give tax advice. We will always refer back to our colleagues at HMRC for that, but we can help you understand what those tax obligations are. One of the key things that we often get asked about is about regulations and legislation that might affect your business. We also look at supporting businesses where you're looking to employ people, especially if you've never done it before, or maybe you're looking at things like trainees or apprenticeships. Important things are things like insurance types and policies that you might need for your business, whether that be for the business or public liability. And also a key thing around intellectual property. So looking at things like your business name, any intellectual property that you may have yourself around ideas for your business. And also providing information about supporting if you're thinking of either importing stock or that you're going to be exporting. Now, again, this is just a very short list of the things we can help you with. We can help with pretty much any aspect. And our job is to not necessarily give the advice, but we will find the best advice for you, and we will signpost you to all of the different support services that are available out there, such as, just a short list: HMRC, Companies House, IPO, your local growth hub, or it could be your local authority as well. But we'll make sure that we get you to exactly that kind of right service. So cool. You can get in touch. Like I say, we're a multi-channel service. You can get in touch through our 0800 number, our email. We also appear on both the gov.uk website and also the brand new business.gov website. And if you visit either of those and look for business support, you'll find all of our details on there, and also our web chat function, if that's your kind of preferred kind of choice of media. What we will be doing as well is after the webinar, we'll send you an email that has all of the contact information for both ourselves at the Business Support Service, but also for the Office of the Small Business Commissioner as well. So if you want to reach out to either of us, then you'll be able to do that. Okay. Now, fortunately, I can see that Emma has joined us. So I'm going to stop sharing my kind of screen. So hi, Emma.
Hello, Carl. I'm so sorry about
that. I wasn't panicking at all.
Let's just say it's a good job it's not Office of the Small Business Technology Commissioner.
Well, look, thanks so much for joining us today. It's really, really good of you to join us. Like I say, Emma Jones is our new Small Business Commissioner. I mean, you've been doing it for how long now?
3 months, so first
3
quarter just under my belt. Yeah,
Excellent. So, knows everything now. So,
of course.
Emma, I'm going to hand over to you now to talk about what you do and how you can support small businesses.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Carl. And again, lovely to be here. So thanks so much to Umi and the Business Support Service for the invitation. Thank you also to the wonderful Amanda in the background, who is kindly sharing my slides that you see before you. As Carl mentioned, my name's Emma Jones. I guess just a tiny bit of brief background. As Carl's just alluded to, I joined as a Small Business Commissioner. I'm the 4th Small Business Commissioner that the UK has had. I took up the role at the end of June. So I've just done my first quarter, but prior to coming into this role, I had many, many years of starting, growing and running my own businesses. The last one being a business called Enterprise Nation, which helps people start and grow their own small business. So I was a small business owner. Small business is what I know. And hopefully that kind of set me up in a good position to take on this role. So what I'd love to share with you, I'll probably talk for about 20 minutes, if that's okay. And what I'd love to share is an introduction to the office itself, share with you some stats we recently came out with on the topic of prompt payment, which, as I will share with you, is very much the remit of this office. I will introduce you to a consultation we've got open at the moment. So kind of some measures we're looking at that would make the UK get even more strict when it comes to not accepting late payments, but then also give you some top tips on how to get paid on time. And then, Carl, if you're happy, we'll kind of go to a Q&A session. So would be delighted to answer questions that you might have. And forgive me, Carl may have said this at the beginning, but I guess you kind of put them in the chat panel, but I'm sure you've been through that housekeeping.
Yeah,
Lovely.
but also just on that, to anybody who's watching, if you have a question that is really specific to your own business need, Emma or myself, we may not necessarily be able to answer it here and now. However, if you do put your questions in the chat, that if we can't answer it today, we will go back to you after the webinar and make sure that we can see if we can support you.
Lovely. Okay, brilliant. Thanks for that, Carl. So, Amanda, if you might go on to my first slide, please. The first slide, there we go, is an introduction to what we do at the office. And when I did start 3 months ago, I said to my team, and Carl may have heard me say this a couple of times now, I have a small and mighty team. So a team of 14 people based across the UK, London, Birmingham and Cardiff. And the mission that I said to them that we should be on is, how do we make life easier for small businesses? As small business owners, you know that life has been tough recently. You've had lots of things to contend with. And so I came into role to say, right, how do we try and just make things that little bit more straightforward? And the particular remit that we take on this is, how do we speed up money flows through the economy, and how do we get money quicker into your hands? So the office itself, so the Office of the Small Business Commissioner, was introduced in 2017. And so however many years on, so we're 8 years on now in terms of the office's tenure, but its remit remains the same, which is to ensure that small businesses get paid on time. And our particular remit is looking at small businesses who are trading with large suppliers. So not so much small businesses, but small businesses who've got contracts with larger companies. So next slide, please. Ooh, I'm loving these interim slides. So I mentioned I wanted to share with you some stats which outlines kind of, I guess, the problem statement that we're seeking to solve at the office. At the end of July, you may have seen that the Prime Minister launched a small business plan, which was a pretty hefty document covering all the areas that government is focused on when it comes to encouraging people to start and grow businesses. Front and centre of that day and that announcement was a payment consultation. And as I say, I'll come on to that in a moment in terms of the measures that we're potentially looking at to introduce in the UK. But also on that day came out this research that looked at the size of the late payment issue in our country. A couple of sobering stats. Sadly, 38 businesses go out of business every day due to late payment. As small business owners, we spend an average of 86 hours chasing debt. And I know I said this at the outset that I have been in your shoes. I've been a small business owner, and I know it's a very thankless task to be chasing your clients. First of all, you don't want to injure the relationship with your clients, and you certainly don't want to be spending your time chasing them for invoices and payments that you're owed. So 86 hours spent chasing, 38 businesses sadly going out of business, and the total cost to the UK economy is around about £11 billion. So that's kind of the size of the problem. And of course, with any problem of that nature, it needs a multifaceted response in terms of how we address it. So next slide, please, Amanda. I'd love to kind of share with you the approach that we take at the office in terms of how do we try and reduce these payment terms and times when it comes to the small firm sector. So I'd always joke on this slide that everything begins with C, so it just makes it very simple. So first of all is our casework team. And I'll mention this when I offer my top tips, but we have a brilliant team of caseworkers who, if small businesses are repeatedly not getting paid, or they've kind of gone through a very long length of time and they're still not receiving payment, they can contact the casework team, and on your behalf for free, we will investigate that case and hopefully try and get it to the point of resolution, which means ultimately you getting paid the invoice amount. We manage something for government called the Fair Payment Code. And this is a big thing that I'm working on. My term as Small Business Commissioner is 2 years. And I'll talk in a moment about this consultation and possible legislation that means there'll be tougher penalties. But in the meantime, the approach that we're very much taking is how can we build a positive payment culture in the UK by showcasing all the businesses who are doing a great job of paying their suppliers on time. And the Fair Payment Code is the vehicle through which we do that. But I'll mention more of that on the next slide in a moment. We do lots of convening. So kind of bullet point 3 is essentially our ability, and I always used to say actually before coming into government, that I think one of the most powerful things a government can do is use its ability to convene. When you're asked by government to come to a meeting, it's very unusual that organisations, small businesses, large corporates say no. So government has got this incredible ability to bring people together. So just a couple of things that we're doing to leverage, hopefully, our ability to convene is we have brought together some of the major e-commerce marketplaces in the UK, because we were receiving some cases from businesses who were selling on marketplaces and maybe they were having the funds in their accounts withheld. So we brought together the marketplaces, and of course, when you bring together the organisations who are doing this, you get to understand their point of view. And to ensure or protect against fraudulent activity, sometimes the marketplaces do need to put sellers' accounts on hold to review the activity that's running through that account. What we're trying to avoid is trusted sellers having their accounts put on hold. So we are working with the e-commerce and the payment industry. We've convened them together, and we're working on a pledge that the industry signs up to that says if there's trusted sellers, there will be certain ways in which the marketplaces will communicate and act with these sellers to try and make sure that payments can be released very quickly. On a similar level to that, we're working on a kind of a more macroeconomic perspective on something that the UK is really good at called open banking and open finance, which is working with lots of data providers, all of those organisations who've got lots of data on small business performance and payment. We're bringing all of them together in one room to say, is there any way that you could all share your data in order for us to speed up payment times? So we're working with an organisation called the Centre for Finance, Innovation and Technology to see if we can come up with the concept of a prompt payment score that would be attributed to every business in the UK. So doing lots of work to convene, bring organisations together to try and solve this perennial issue of payment. Connected to that, we have lots of content. So on our website, and I heard Carl talking just before I came in around the small business support service. So we have content on how to contract well in order to get paid well. So on the website of the Small Business Commissioner, you can pick up lots of content. And as I say, I'd love to give you a few tips on that today, but with a call to action for you to visit the website so then you can find out more. Of course, we collaborate, so we're working very closely across both government departments, but also, and I've mentioned them a few times, kind of the private sector and industry. Platforms such as the marketplaces, the big three accounting providers, Sage, Xero, Intuit, the UK banks, they've all got an incredible position and an ability to help us with this payment issue in terms of speeding up payment time. So we're very much taking the approach to say, right, let's work together, government and industry, to see if we can solve this issue for small firms. And finally, it's all complementary. So everything that we offer is free to small businesses, both the casework activity, but also the Fair Payment Code, which I'm going to mention in a moment. So all as a service for small businesses, and as I say, all free to access. So Amanda, next slide, please. I just want to cover the Fair Payment Code. So as I mentioned, this is something that we use to celebrate and showcase businesses who are paying their suppliers on time. Businesses of any size can apply to be on the code. And you can see from this slide, we have 3 levels of award: bronze, silver, and gold. And the gold level, which we think are the top performers, so these are businesses that are paying their suppliers, 95% of their suppliers within 30 days. So to apply to the code, again, you go onto our website, go onto the Fair Payment Code site, you can apply for free, and we've got a great team of people who then review your application. They take up a couple of references from your clients, and then they will let you know the level of award that you can be given. And businesses say to me, well, what's the benefit of being on the Fair Payment Code? And what we're seeing from businesses large and small is there's quite a few benefits. It attracts great talent to your business because, of course, employees want to work for a company that pays its bills on time. It can also help you win contracts. So it's a very good thing when pitching either for work in the private or public sector, is if you can flout your credentials to say we're on the Fair Payment Code. That's a really good thing to have. And then, of course, it's also very beneficial when other companies are thinking of dealing with you. So good for your supply chain, good for hopefully your talent and recruitment, but also good for business development. So I would implore everyone on the call, please do consider applying to the Fair Payment Code because overall it's good for business. And so Amanda, just onto the next slide, which just covers the consultation. So I mentioned, and sorry, this is a very wordy slide. I don't expect you to read it all, but I just kind of wanted to flag it, that I mentioned when the Small Business Plan came out at the end of July, this consultation was kind of front and center of the announcements. And what this is looking at is there's 9 measures that you can see on the slide on which we are consulting to ask businesses, large and small, trade bodies, stakeholders, representative groups, do you think if we brought these things into law, would this be a good thing and how would it impact you? So the measures are being considered to go through legislation. If that happens, that will kind of take 15 to 18 months. No one ever quite knows how long something takes from when it goes at the start of legislation to when it becomes law, because of course there's lots of potential different debates between the 2 houses. But some of the measures that you can see on which we're consulting is things like an ambition to get the UK to a maximum payment term of 60 days, moving to 45 days over the next 5 years. Specifically in the construction sector, we're looking at the use of retention payments. We're looking at mandatory application of interest on late paying invoices. So all of these things we're looking at will benefit small businesses. It will speed up payment times. And so if you are a small business, I would love for you to potentially consider putting in a response to the consultation. You don't have to respond to all of the questions. You can just kind of share the view that you want to offer. And the consultation is open until the 23rd of October. And I've been saying that for about 7 weeks. And of course, as of today, we are in the month in which the consultation closes. So 22 days left to get your response in to that consultation. But final slide, just the next slide, Amanda, I just wanted to kind of end by sharing some tips with you, top tips on how to get paid. Forgive me, this may be grandma teaching you to suck eggs, because many of these things I'm sure you do in your business on a daily basis, but sometimes it can just be kind of good to kind of go back through that checklist. So really briefly, one thing that we see is, I think lots of people think that late payment comes at kind of almost at the point of the invoice, but actually we see that it kind of starts at the point of the contract. And there's a whole kind of ethos that if you contract well, you hopefully get paid well. So always have a look at the contracts that you're signing when it comes to the payment terms. Look at the interest that your potential client is saying would be charged on late paying invoices. So always keep an eye out. And of course, look at the payment dates in terms of, are they on 30, 60, 90, 120 days. So be sure to check the contract. And of course, if you feel that you're in the position to do so, question the payment terms if you feel able to do it. So have a look at that contract. I know as small business owners, we're always so keen and so delighted when we've won the work that we just sign. But of course, do give those payment terms and conditions a little look before signing. Then the second one seems really basic, but again, I think it's kind of really important. Just when you're raising an invoice, just to check, have all of the details, the right PO number, it's gone to the right address, the right person. Just because having spent 3 months in this role, quite often when I do ask companies, you know, why are you not paying on time? Quite often it can be it was mistakes made at the stage of invoicing. And of course, the slightly sad thing for a small business is if you raise an invoice on a 60-day payment term, you submit the invoice, and only at 60 days are you checking, oh, has it been paid? What you don't want is at that point to discover there was an issue on the invoice and the clock starts again on the 60-day point. So make sure all the information you need is on the invoices, goes in correct. And then, of course, have some credit control. So again, I'm sure you all do this as businesses. If you're using accounting software, it's really straightforward to do. Point at which an invoice gets submitted. You then know the due date by which the funds should come in. And so therefore, of course, you then know when you should start chasing if the funds haven't arrived. I would say this on this webinar, but I'm a big believer in getting access to trusted business support. And of course, when it comes to payment, I think it's a lifesaver to have someone like a bookkeeper in your business. When I first started Enterprise Nation, my bookkeeper was my first hire. She was an incredible woman. In fact, she's still there. She stayed with me the whole time I kind of grew the business. And bookkeepers are sensational when it comes to credit control. And of course, that's their job. That's their expertise. So it's really good, I think, if you can make that investment, even in a part-time bookkeeper, so someone just to kind of be monitoring the credit control and, of course, the cash flow in the business. If you are not getting paid, again, this is where kind of so many nuances come into things, is small businesses don't want to ruin the relationship with larger clients But of course, you do want to kind of follow up and say, oh, you know, we noticed the due date is due. We didn't receive that payment. Can you have a look into it? And of course, you may potentially need to escalate that up in your client. But if you can keep that relationship cordial whilst you're chasing that payment, you hopefully keep the relationship intact whilst you getting the money that you're owed. But this final point, if all of that fails, that's where our casework team comes into its own. So if you have repeatedly tried to secure payment from a larger client and you're just kind of not getting the results that you need, then of course do come through to us. And as I say, the casework team, if it's for a company that's a large company, and our definition of a large company is a business with 50 plus employees, then we can pick up that case and investigate on your behalf. So hopefully that was helpful in terms of introduction to the office, ways in which we're working to try and address this kind of big problem of late payment, where we've kind of got stats to kind of show the size of it, the consultation that's currently open, the Fair Payment Code, which celebrates and showcases businesses doing the right thing, but also hopefully some tips on how you can go about getting paid. And just at the very final slide, Amanda, it's just contact details for us. Again, I think Carl mentioned that we'd share these for everyone who signed up, but we're very active across social channels. I post a LinkedIn newsletter every Friday, giving small businesses updates on the work that we're doing, but also quite often introduction to work from other government departments. So recently I did a spotlight on the Intellectual Property Office, because they have a whole host of support for small businesses. And quite often small businesses will say to me, well, I didn't know about that. So each Friday I kind of use that newsletter, as I say, to kind of update on all things payment, but also looking wider across other government support. So thanks again for the opportunity to present to you. And Carl, back to you. Would love to pick up any questions or comments.
Yeah, thanks. And I think just a couple of things personally, sort of on that, Emma. I joined one of the broadcast calls last week about the consultation, and I have to say that there was a lot of positive feedback from people who really see that they think this is really very much the way forward. So it's great to see. So fingers crossed that you know, that's a successful consultation and it does become legislation. So that'll be great.
Yeah,
and I think
so.
I think the other thing as well, just from the business support service side of things, is just to kind of reiterate kind of a few of your points about the fact of making sure you're on top of these things. And if you do have a problem, deal with it and don't hope that it goes away, because unfortunately, sometimes the customers, by the time they've come to us at the business support service, it's already got to the point where it's having a critical impact on your cash flow. It could have a critical impact on the success of the business, and how important it is to actually tackle things and deal with things as you see them. And like you say, having good credit control in place. So cool. Well, if it's all right with you, Emma, I've got a question from one of our viewers, and also I've got a few questions myself, if that's all right. I know this doesn't exactly fall into this, but somebody has asked the question: what about businesses being owed by other small businesses? Are there some recent solutions to resolving these? And I think you've probably, you know, as a small business yourself, previously you've been in this boat.
Yeah, well, and this is the thing, Carl, and I know you know this, it's not within the remit of the office itself. Yeah. And people quite often say to me, well, what? How do you not cover small businesses not paying other small businesses? And just a reason for that is government doesn't want to be in the position that if a small business is not paying another small business, if you kind of, I guess, play any role in that, you're going to injure one of the parties, because kind of each party have limited resource, and government doesn't want to be in that position. So the reason why government steps in when it's small business not getting paid by large companies is because there is a sense that, well, the large companies should pay because they're on time, because they've got the resource to do it. But yeah, for small businesses kind of sort of having difficulties with each other, the tip I would add, which is before dealing with another small business, just check out their credit history. And this goes back to kind of why we're looking to see if we can come up with the concept of a prompt payment score, because it would enable you to say, well, actually, if that business hasn't got a great track record in paying suppliers on time, do I really kind of want to deal with them? So I think there's some checking up front. There are tools on the market at the moment, Experian. There's also a tool called Credit Safe. So you can use tools like this to kind of, as I say, kind of look at the credit history of a potential supplier. So that's kind of upfront before you even go into business. And then, of course, if you're sadly kind of not getting paid, it's all of the same things apply. Was the invoice correct? Make sure that you're kind of following up at the point that the payment is owed. Can you use a bookkeeper to kind of, be that middle point between you and potentially the other founder of the other company? And then, as I say, kind of like try and keep that relationship cordial whilst you're receiving the funds. One thing we do hear is that quite often the reason that businesses aren't getting paid is because the payer has gone insolvent. And so there is a lot of work that goes on through the insolvency service to say, how can we try and make sure that, businesses who are owed amounts can try and receive as much as possible if it's in the position of it being an insolvency.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Emma. Just sort of maybe on the sort of slightly wider thing, other than sort of on a business support perspective, what else are you kind of seeing out there other than late payments for issues for small businesses?
Well, there's lots out there in addition to late payment. And Carl, you know me well, and I think I may have said this to you before, that I have to focus on late payment in terms of this role. Like, my temptation is to kind of look at everything that's going on. So interestingly, and if you do kind of look wider, I'll go back actually to this small business plan, because it's something that's on my mind a lot at the moment. Is in the small business plan, there was reference to sort of the small business potential contribution to the economy. And there was a line that said, if every small business grows by 1%, and I did a whole LinkedIn post on this actually, in terms of 1% to a business is if you're turning over £4,000, that's like an extra 40 quid you need to earn. If it's £40,000, that's an extra contract of £400. If you're generating £400,000, you need an extra contract of £4,000 to constitute 1% growth. So when you work through the numbers, it feels quite a viable amount of growth for a small business to deliver.
Yeah.
So this small business plan said if every small business grew just by 1%, collectively, that would contribute 320 billion to the UK economy by 2030. So small amounts of what feels like viable growth, each small business would equal this huge contribution to kind of UK PLC. And so when I kind of look at that, I kind of think, okay, well, that sounds great, but how do we achieve that? And so I think there's two things that small businesses kind of really need at the moment, and this is what I'm seeing lots of government attention be spent on. One is, well, we need more opportunities, because with growth, we need to sell more. And so what I'm kind of seeing across the landscape is potential for export. So, the government has just done trade deals with India. Of course, 2 weeks ago, there was all of this US investment that was announced.
Yeah.
So how do we open up international markets, I think is a really interesting opportunity for the next couple of years. How do we support more small businesses to sell to the public sector? So SME procurement, which of course has been around for a long time. How do we help our small businesses really make the most of this, again, a new piece of legislation that is now law called the Procurement Act, where it's kind of the Procurement Act is saying government should keep on spending more of its money with small businesses. So how do we open up these opportunities of export, selling to the government, making the most of digital technologies to kind of get that growth, whilst at the same time, how do we reduce all of the admin and stuff that small business owners have got to do and that can get in the way of growth? That, of course, is where late payment comes in. How do we remove the friction so you don't spend these non-productive hours chasing debt, and instead you can spend kind of hours spent on growth activity? But also there's kind of other bits of admin and regulation across government where, and you'll have heard lots of this in the media, where government is saying we want to reduce the admin and regulation burden on small businesses. So they're looking across lots of different departments in terms of how to do that. So in summary, Carl, across government, lots of activity to say, how can we get that 1% per business growth, because it equals loads to the UK economy, and how do we do that through opening up these opportunities, but also reducing the burden on small firms.
Brilliant, thanks, Emma. We've got a question that's come in, and again, I know this is probably an opinion question rather than necessarily something, but I don't know whether or not this is anything that you might have a personal opinion on. But somebody who said they offer a personal service training business, and they're looking at whether or not they should take payment up front rather than invoicing at a later date. Again, I know there's no right and wrong answer to this, because obviously there's pros and cons to doing it both ways, but I don't know if you have kind of any kind of an opinion around that.
Well, I mean, I would say the quicker you can get the money, the better, but you also want to take into account of what works for the customer.
Yes.
And if it's personal services, I mean, I guess kind of a couple of thoughts, and forgive me because I don't know how the business operates, but direct debit, of course, can be a really useful way of getting recurring income. There's a great company called Go Cardless that enables small businesses to kind of plug Go Cardless into your business account, and then that enables direct debit payments. So that could be an option. Of course, the other thing that's helped small businesses when it comes to getting paid, if it's things like personal fitness training, is some customers may say, well, I don't really want to pay up front because I kind of want the training, and then I'm happy to kind of pay as soon as it's done. And of course, what's hugely helped small businesses is the payment terminal kind of sector. Yes. Square, iZettle, SumUp. There's so many options now from which small businesses can choose. And of course, then that hopefully enables you deliver the service, but then immediate payment once that service is delivered. So I think if you can get the right blend of you feeling secure that the money will come in, but the customer feels secure that actually I'm satisfied with the goods before I kind of then make payment. But just as a final point on that, because I've seen it done well when it comes to fitness training, is kind of like encouraging your customers to have take out a subscription. So if you can say, you know, I'll give you 6 sessions, either you subscribe and you pay per month, so that's this kind of direct debit every 6, or indeed I'll give you 7 sessions for the price of 6 if you pay up front. So you kind of look at different kind of pricing models. So offers, incentives, you know, buy one, get one free, etc. All of that is kind of worth thinking about.
Brilliant, thanks. And Helen, just hopefully that answered your question, but also what we'll do is get one of our advisors to contact you after the session, and we can get an appointment in with one of our advisors to talk that through in more detail. Couple more questions from me, if that's all right, Emma. What would be your advice to somebody who's looking to grow their business?
Well, pretty much kind of the things I just covered, actually, Carl. So, you know, practically, I'd say look at how do you make more sales, consider the public sector as a client, consider export. Of course, it depends on what you're selling to whom in terms of kind of your growth activity. In fact, actually, maybe let me just kind of use a moment to talk about digital, because I haven't hugely kind of spoken about digital adoption, and I think the whole growth that can unleash for small businesses. So I would say try and embrace kind of AI, new digital tools as much as you can, because it can deliver growth in the form of productivity. So it can, you know, it means you can do more things in a shorter amount of time. But of course, it also means you can reach more customers, come up with new innovative products and services. So I would say have a look at digital. But just as a final element on growth, I think over and above all the kind of practical, okay, how do I reach new markets? How do I adopt digital to kind of leverage that? There's something around having a growth mindset that I think is probably really important, because of course there's lots of talk in the kind of macro economy of we've got a budget coming up. Will there be more taxes? What does the international environment look like? And I think almost the hardest thing for business owners at the moment is to get themselves in the right mindset for where they want to take their business. So to do that, I would say what's really helpful is to surround yourself with other growth business owners. So there can be nothing more powerful than getting in a room, virtual or kind of in person. I mean, I think in person is great for this, is surround yourself with others. And then, of course, you can all sort of boost your confidence. So kind of try and get yourself in that growth mindset through seeking out a peer group. Of course, again, Carl, I come back to this age-old, also get access to business support, because business support will boost your confidence, connect you to the right programs that can help, advise potentially on raising funds. I know that's kind of not anything that you kind of do at Business Support Service, but of course, you know all the people who can help businesses like British Business Bank, etc. So surround yourself with support, look at the practicalities of how you can grow a business. But as I say, probably the most important thing is to convince yourself that it's the right thing to do.
Absolutely. I mean, it is a hugely psychological thing. Again, absolutely agree around the sort of networking and surrounding yourself. And to anybody who's kind of listening to this, you know, if it is something you'd like to do, if you contact us at the Business Support Service, we have access to local networking within your region to be able to help you if it's not something you've done before. Cool. I think there's only one more question really from me, Emma, is that so you've been doing this for kind of like 3 months. What does the rest of the year look like?
Well, we've got 3 months left to go, haven't we, Carl? As of today, incredible that we're in the final quarter. And interestingly, I've just done a highlight report on kind of what we've achieved in the first quarter. And then I did do a kind of, right, here are priorities for kind of Q2. And of course, one of them is seeing all the responses to the consultation. So we've got work to be done that kind of says, right, let's look at all the responses, look at the next steps in the legislation. So that's kind of one thing. Boosting the number of businesses on the Fair Payment Code. We've got a big focus on that at the moment. How can we encourage more large companies, household names to be on the code? Because again, the more that big companies get on, their peer groups will then think about doing the same. Making sure our casework team is known about, so lots and lots of communications over the past 3 months. So in this kind of first quarter, we've had calls with over 100 stakeholders, we've spoken at events, so there's going to be more of that in the rest of the year, getting out and about across the UK. So lots of communications, looking at how we encourage small businesses to adopt digital technologies so they can get paid quicker, making sure we've got the right content going out to our market to say, are we helping you contract well, to get paid well, increase the number of businesses on the Fair Payment Code, and make sure that the consultation is kind of going through as it should be. So lots more still to come. And as I say, quite often when I'm asked kind of what success looks like for us, and I think, you know, hopefully we'll be given a year to kind of have a look at this. So almost kind of this time next year is, can we show, and it's a big issue, but can we show we're bringing down the time that small business owners have to spend on chasing debt?
Yeah.
So I was thinking the other day, we kind of almost need like a little barometer of, is life getting better for small businesses? And kind of, as I say, that's what we feel our job is to do. I'd love to think we can reduce those, you know, non-productive hours spent chasing debt. That's where we would feel, okay, we've kind of contributed and hopefully had a positive impact.
Brilliant. Thank you. Well, I've got no further questions, and I've just checked, and it doesn't look like we have any other questions there either. So I think the last thing is for me to just say thank you very much, Emma, for joining us today. Hopefully everybody's got a lot out of that. And as I said earlier, following this, we'll be sending an email out to everybody that has the information for contacting both ourselves at the Business Support Service and Emma and the team at the Office of the Small Business Commissioner. So thank you very much, Emma.
Thank you so much, Carl, for having me. Really appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, you too. Thanks, Emma. Thank you, everybody.